Okay, Shankha, you can start now.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shruutika, Assistant Editor at the Trade Promotion Council of India, and your co-host for today's exciting conversation. First of all, thank you for taking the time to join us. Whether you're here for the insights, investments, or just curious about how turning silver can translate into gold, we are glad to have you. Now, here's something worth thinking about. India is getting older and richer. By 2050, nearly 1 in 5 Indians will be over 60. But don't picture rocking chairs at yet. Today's seniors are living longer, living better, and spending smarter. They're digitally connected, financially empowered, and redefining what it means to age gracefully. So, and to help us unpack this, we've got an all-star lineup. We're joined in by an incredible group of experts. First of all, Vivek Gupta, MD of Research at IPSOS India, who knows more about what people think than most of us know about our weekend plans. Prasun Kumar, CMO at Magicbricks, a man who knows how to spot where the real estate magic is really happening. Professor Ashita Aggarwal, a marketing expert from SPJIMR, who brings academic brilliance and market pearls together. Professor Arun Kumar, retired professor of economics from JNU, because no serious conversation on markets and policy is complete without some economic wisdom. Hemanshu Jain, founder and CEO of Khayaal, a platform that has its heart set on making elder care smart, sensitive, and scalable. Neetu Bansal, senior director at IPSOS, whose insights often shape the very strategies that we'll be discussing here today. And last but not the least, Shruutika, also from IPSOS India, bringing fresh perspective and data-backed depth to this conversation. So over to Madhurima. With that, let's dive right in. The virtual stage is all yours.
Thank you, Shruutika, for all the information and for the great introduction. And it's so wonderful to see a nice lineup of experts who have worked extensively in what we call the silver economy. The silver people aged 50 plus will be about 20.8% of the population in 2050. So this population is not only wise, they also have pots of money. But our marketers and all the other people in the economy, even focusing on them and catering to their needs, they also have very specific needs in terms of how they consume, how they spend. But at the same time, in a digital first world now, how are these seniors or the silver economy or the silvers, as we say, they're navigating these spaces? And what these experts whom we have in our midst, they're going to share a lot of insights about how we can leverage opportunities with this great demographic. So without any further ado, let's start with Professor Arun Kumar, who works with the JNU, and he has done a lot of work with this cohort. So over to Dr. Kumar.
Thank you very much for inviting me in your midst. I'm perhaps the odd person out. I'm an economist, whereas everybody else is into business and into looking at the situation. I'm a macroeconomist and public finance person. So let me try and give a broader perspective to the issue. In India, we have a vast diversity. There is the organized sector and the unorganized sector. The organized sector is only 6% of the employment. Unorganized sector is 94% of the employment. And, from the eShram portal, we know that, in the unorganized sector, 90% are earning less than 10,000 rupees per month. Now, given this kind of a disparity, very few are really well off. And the Delhi Socioeconomic Survey of 2018 gives us some data. Now, of course, we need to up it with the inflation index. But at that point of time, Delhi showed that 98% of the Delhi families were spending less than 50,000 rupees per month. And 90% were spending less than 25,000 rupees per month. Now, because the Delhi's per capita income is 3 times the all India average, so you can take it that if you divide it by 3, 90% of the families spend less than about 9,000 rupees per month, and 98% spend less than 16,500 rupees per month. So what we are talking about is a very tiny percentage who have savings. Roughly about 2% of the Indian families really have savings. Second is that you see there is a large black economy. According to my estimate, the black economy in 2012-13 was 62% of GDP. Now that is concentrated in the hands of 3%. So we can say at best that there are 3% of Indian families which have large purchasing power, which have large savings. And it is this percentage that we are talking about who will really be the spenders. The others will be very small spenders. They won't have much spending power. So are we satisfied with that, or do we want that to be expanded? Because if we expand, then the business opportunities are greater. So the question is, how do we get the distribution so that more people who are at the bottom today, they come up, and then they will be the consumers, they'll be the savers, and they'll then be able to spend. So in other words, two strategies are needed. One is for those who are well off currently, roughly about 3% of the population. How do we get them into this, insurance and various health schemes and so on and so forth, where people buy real estate, etc. And the other is, how do we expand this 3% to at least 10% by the time it's 2050, so that a much larger percentage of the population comes into this class, which will be able to spend. So we need to tackle the black economy, because the black economy, what it does is it siphons out funds from the country. So there's a flight of capital. Now, if there's a flight of capital, that money is spent abroad rather than in India. So the opportunities in India, therefore, get utilized less. So if we can tackle the black economy, that'll expand the market. The second is, if the distribution becomes better in incomes, so that many more people from the lower levels, they are able to come up into this spending class, then that will also expand the market. Now, for all this, you require proper public finance. The public finance policies will benefit, not only the well-off segment, but also those who are at the bottom, they'll come up. So in other words, the public finance policy should be so that those who are in the unorganized sector, they are able to do better business. At the moment, what's happening is the unorganized sector is declining. And therefore, if 90% of the population in the unorganized sector is declining, then your market size doesn't expand. So how do we push the unorganized sector so that it expands more? And where is the unorganized sector? 46% are in agriculture, and the remaining are in non-agriculture, okay? And the non-agriculture people are the ones who are in micro sector or the small sector. So there are 6,000 large companies, 6 lakh small and medium companies, and 6 crore micro companies. So basically, if we can push the micro companies and the small companies up, then the purchasing power will go up. And the elderly by 2050, there'll be instead of 2% or 3% will become more like 10%. So that is where I would say that we need proper fiscal policies which will push that up so the market expands, and that would benefit business all around.
It's very interesting points shared, Professor. And I think we can look at the Japan model, where we have a very large population which is elderly. And the government is creating opportunities for the elderly, in terms of small work to full-time work to just a few hours of work, etc., so that they stay financially independent. And I agree. The informal sector, where the salaries are really, really low, and imagine we'll have a burgeoning population, which will be very, very elderly. And so this, I think, needs a lot of thought through and introspection by the government and by India Inc. to see how we can provide opportunities to the silver demographic, as they age and once they're post-retirement age, that is. Now, I'm going to jump straight to Prasun, who's done a very interesting study among among silvers to understand their purchase power and to what kind of housing and what kind of spending they're doing. I know Professor Arun Kumar said that it's a very tiny 2% that we're talking about. But let's hear from Prasun what his study says. And one request, we all have to be as short as possible and say our piece, so that everyone gets an opportunity to say their thoughts. So over to Mr. Prasun Kumar from Magicbricks. He's the CMO at Magicbricks, India's leading portal for reality.
Thanks a lot, Madhurima, and thanks for inviting me to this webinar. The topic is very, very dear to my heart. Age tech, silver tech, whatever we call it. This is something which is a huge potential area, and a lot can be done and will be done in years to come. I believe so. When you are, and as I was listening to Professor Arun Kumar, and he looked at the entire silver population as a totality in a very holistic manner to really tell us that within that pyramid there are multiple layers, and each layer is not in the same states as of today, and therefore one solution does not apply to all, which of course is true, and is of course true for any challenge or issue that one faces in a developing economy like us, where not every segment would be as handy and as ready to be able to afford all kind of solutions. So there are two things over there. One is to create value in silver economy, and other thing is to unlock value in silver economy, right? When Professor Arun Kumar says that, listen, large part of the job is also to create value. How do you bring up those cross sections of silvers who are not going to be able to afford a lot of those solutions? How are you going to be able to bring them up there so that they are able to afford? That's one part of the job. I think a very interesting job can also be done with that top 3% that Professor is talking about, where there is a huge amount of opportunity. I don't think a lot has been done yet, which is to unlock the value that is there, really. And I think if you really look at silvers and the requirements that are there, apart from health and wellness, which is the primary requirement of a silver, living conditions and independent living is the next biggest requirement for them. You know, we are living in a time, in an era where the traditional social structures are collapsing, and the traditional support systems that were there for silvers through joint families, through children being around, taking care of silvers, etc. A lot of these things have started collapsing now. And this poses a new challenge in front of us as to how to tackle this problem then, right? Silvers also, if you talk of silvers as of today, most of them would be Gen X or say baby boomers. Now, they primarily will also be relatively well off as of today to be able to afford or to be able to invest in a certain kind of a lifestyle and living conditions for them. Now, when it comes to unlocking value, silver living or housing solution for silvers is one of the biggest opportunities out there to unlock this value, right? Now, I would want to make one important distinction here. There's a difference between old age home and silver living, right? Old age home, unfortunately, perceptively at least, it has been associated with a lot of negative things, right? When you can't take care of your parents, when you really, you know, the oldies have nowhere to go, you kind of in a way, you know, drop them off at a old age home, or you know, they have no other option. You know, it's a forced thing. Silver living, on the other hand, is a lifestyle choice that silvers can make, right? I am going to retire at 60. Post 60, how my life is going to be, what kind of support system I would have, what can I really expect, and therefore the corpus that is available with me, what can I do to make best usage of that corpus to have a decent life beyond my retirement, because my requirements will not go down. The expenditure, for example, on health and wellness will only go up with age, okay, but the income will definitely go down. So therefore that requires a definite planning. And we did, with this intent, we did a survey. We do a sentiment index survey every quarter. And in this particular latest survey, we also decided to capture this particular hypothesis or this particular proposition. And what we figured out is that silvers are the most ready consumer segment, if I speak from a business perspective, a consumer cohort who are ready to invest in meaningful living solutions, right? So they are the most ready cohort for housing solutions for silvers. The second thing that came out is silvers, unlike any other consumer cohort, does not have a long gestation period in terms of decision making.
Right.
When a young couple decides to invest in housing solutions, they have multiple factors in mind, including return on investment, including the future, including children's requirement, blah, blah, blah. There are a whole lot of things over there. right? When a silver is looking at investing in his living solution, his or her living solution, they have a very immediate requirement to fulfill. And they do not have too many variables to play with. So their gestation is not very long over there. Third is all of them are willing to invest in better quality living solutions. They definitely want that. It's a latent need out there. Whether that's being taken care of or not, that's a different debate altogether, right? But that's a latent need. And how can therefore meaningful housing solutions take care of that? And this was a research done on that, and we had some very, very interesting stats coming out over there. We estimated that the senior living or senior housing solution by itself would be close to about $8 billion worth of opportunity by 2030. We are looking at 15 crore seniors today who are already there, 10% of our population. It's all projected to go up to 20% of the population base, which is about 35 odd crores by 2050. Okay.
Interesting.
So, if you do the maths backwards, you are looking at a massive investment stroke value unlocking opportunity out there from a living solution point of view. Again, when you're talking of senior living, it's not just providing housing. Senior living has to be an integrated solution. It has to have housing, wellness solution, healthcare solutions, engagement-driven solutions, and a lot of these things put together because seniors, unlike others, cannot go out and seek entertainment, seek engagement, you just cannot build a 2-room apartment and say, okay, your problem is resolved. That's not how it happens. From a living condition point of view, seniors require a lot of help. They require a lot of support. All that support has to be integral part of their development, right?
Yeah.
So right from taking care of their movement related issues, whether you have basic solutions like easy accessibility to different floors, different levels, to providing them different solutions, including basic things like wheelchair around and so on and so forth, to having solutions where the biggest healthcare challenge for seniors is falling down, right? And how that can be integrated and incorporated in the solution framing itself, so that you have all those things taken care of, which is preventive in nature.
Interesting.
So a lot of these things come together, and unlike many people would think, seniors also need quality life post retirement. They need engagement. They need to be talking to people. They need their share of entertainment. They need to be doing things. Now, putting all that together in form of a singular solution is what senior living is going to be about. And this is what came out very, very strongly from the research, that seniors are looking at those kind of integrated solutions availability. So, if you ask a senior, would you want to go to an old age home? I'm sure 90% of them would reject that idea, because it's a horrific idea to just, go to a room and stay alone, right? And that's the perceptive nature of old age homes, right? But they definitely look at a solution where they know that we are now increasingly living in a society which is in a way disintegrating faster from a family or social structure point of view. Right. And with more technology coming in, that's an opportunity as well as a challenge for them. Okay. And so a lot of these things are in their mind, and therefore what they're seeking is a wholesome solution which can give them quality life for the rest of their life that they want to be there.
I will just add one more thing. So I think to have some sort of a club for seniors in that same vicinity of the society, that also should add some sort of beacon of excitement in their dull lives, if I say so. If they, I think 50 plus won't be that dull. Only in their sunset years, they might feel a bit lonely, etc. So these kind of community sort of, solutions can really add value. Thank you so much for your good views and very insightful indeed. And so now I'm going to go to Vivek Gupta. He's done extensively a lot of work in the financial services and healthcare, and he works with IPSOS. He's the managing director research. IPSOS is a global market research company. So Vivek, over to you. Tell us briefly about what is your take on silvers and the opportunities they hold, that is, as a key demographic.
For the plugin. of IPSOS also. But I'm saying thanks, Shruutika, for setting the context, Professor Arun Kumar, for talking the division between the haves and have-nots, and how only 2% of them are the affluent segment, which have the propensity to spend, how the different segments, the need for that segment to grow to a larger base so that the seniors can have more. Prasun Kumar for setting the context between the old age homes versus the seniors living. And just to take some of those points ahead and looking at it from the perspective of two specific opportunities that I see for marketeers. So for example, Prasun, when you were talking about the whole thing about senior living, and we have an example in Antara, and I'm sure all of us, and the reason why I'm talking about it is when I'm looking at the picture over here, I realize in 2050, all of us would be actually in the seniors category, the 1 in 5 that we're talking about, all of us would belong over there. So I think the critical thing is if you look at an Antara, which is almost like a 5-star resort sort of a scenario, which is what you want to be aspire to, where you're taken care of from both from your physical as well as from a mental perspective. Now, the two opportunities which I'm going to talk about is one is health. And that is primarily because if you see the seniors, what we've realized is 70% of them have at least one ailment, which could either be related to diabetes. Of course, we know India is the diabetes capital of the world, hypertension, or vision related issues. Now, vision related could be just sight, which could be cataract. There could be multiple things. Now, given, and these are just physical ailments. The other thing which you talked about, Prasun, which was very interesting, was the whole thing about the breaking up of the joint families and the whole emergence of the nuclearization. Now, what the nuclearization is doing is the seniors are no longer living with their children. And when they're going to be living alone, they need to be taken care of. And it's not just the physical taking care, but they're going to be aspects like mental aspects. They're going to be aspects like depression. So companies that go and take care of that, the company like Mensa, etc., who talking about that. And while we know, and you talked about the Japan example, let's say Madhurima, but which has been quite successful. But what we know is in Europe, where also there's a burgeoning senior citizen population, the challenge that is there is to cater to that segment. They're using migrants and migrant laborers, which has not been a very successful model, and which is a challenge. But I'm hoping India takes its own trajectory, given that we are digital first and things like that. Of course, we know the challenges in terms of the digitization, because what is happening is while we are bringing in a lot of things, including payments through UPI, including online transactions, including a lot of things like OTT content, social media, etc. Each of these things are growing. But what we need to do is enable the seniors for something called digital literacy, to make them feel confident. When it comes to financial transactions, the whole perspective of the digital arrest, etc., the online frauds, etc., when you read those things, you will realize that that's getting the seniors very, very worried, because they're not as technologically challenged. They're technologically challenged as compared to the Gen Z. In fact, when I talk about our own industry, what I can talk about is the amount of research that we do among Gen Zs is much more than the research that we should be doing among seniors. Because actually, the seniors, actually, if you're looking at the silvers, actually have 10 times more money than what the Gen Zs have. So that's where the pot of gold is lying. You have to target them. And there are multiple opportunities. It could be even as something as simple as digital wearables, things that are monitoring their heartbeat, things they're monitoring their sugar, things that are monitoring their pulse rate. And there could be a direct connect with a doctor who's monitoring that. Now, some of our clients are already doing that. Clients like Practo, Tata 1mg are offering you home services in terms of getting your diagnostic tests, video interactions with doctors. Some of those are being appreciated by the seniors. The problem is the digital, our seniors were not born with a smartphone, unlike the Gen Zs, etc. So they're not as adapted. Somebody needs to do the equivalent of an assisted digital platform to help that. There could be opportunities over there. The other thing that there is the whole thing from English, which is the usual thing on which most apps work. If you could make it more vernacular, you'd be able to reach out to the larger proportion of audience. The other thing is more related to demographics, and that's related to India. In most couples, what tends to happen is that the men tend to be usually older than the women by at least 3 to 4 years at the time of marriage. And what we know is that women also have a higher longevity. So what will happen is there would be periods in time when the women will have to have a 10-year runway on their own without a partner. So if we can create some solutions targeted at them, there could be an
Right.
opportunity over there. So if we could work on some of these things, it would definitely be a great opportunity because this segment definitely has the money. And obviously, while healthcare expenses will be large, the other thing that could be there is, and Prashant, since you talked about housing and the need for senior living, but a lot of these people have houses, but because they will not be earning, there could be an opportunity which is very well leveraged in, let's say, US and Western markets, which is something called
Interesting.
reverse mortgage. What you do
Okay.
is you give your house and you get in every month you get a fixed amount of money for the collateral that you put, which could be your own house. Now, there are mental barriers to putting your own house and using that money to have a comfortable living. But if that
Hmm.
sort of thing could be built out like it's been done in the West, then that could be another way to monetize this real estate that's lying with the seniors.
Interesting suggestions from Vivek about how seniors, silvers can lead a comfortable life post retirement and how they can take care of their, health needs and have uh, living conditions which are conducive to their to them. So very interesting views and how, about reverse mortgage, etc. So yeah, so these challenges, I hope some of these solutions marketers are listening and they dovetail it to their to the scene silvers because they need some bit of personalization and like I say, yeah, their participation in the economy is very important. So as they have, some of them have real deep pockets. Okay, so very interesting views from some of us, but we have to now get that rigor. So quickly now I will jump to Hemanshu, who's doing a lot of work with seniors actually. He has something called Age Tech, where he makes seniors digitally savvy and he caters to their needs, etc. So Himanshu, over to you. Let's hear your views and briefly tell us your story as fast as possible. Yeah.
Thank you, Madhurima, and thanks everyone for having me here. I'd just like to give a short introduction because I think you missed out on the most important part. I am building a platform called Khayaal,
Okay.
which
Oh
is
yeah,
an
Khayaal.
age
I'm sorry,
platform.
I missed
Yeah.
Khayaal. Yeah.
So Khayaal is the largest platform for the senior citizens in India, and we have more than 3 million seniors whom we've been working with, and we've been existing since last 5 years. We started back in 2020, and we've worked on building a huge community for seniors, and this is an online community I'm talking about. One of the key things that I would like to share with all of you is that we feel that seniors are not digitally savvy, and which is actually a myth. Every senior today has a smartphone, and they have a lot of time. And as Vivek Gupta ji rightly mentioned, seniors are looking for things to get engaged, and that's where we stepped in during the time of pandemic. When we started Khayal, the mission was to help seniors with digital literacy. So we started a WhatsApp group, started giving them Zoom sessions around digital literacy, around healthcare related needs, about how do you order stuff online, because everybody was stuck at home and they needed help. And uh, to make it more interesting, we started doing a lot of fun activities. We started doing karaoke, tambola, antakshari, and these kind of engagement-driven
Mhm.
sessions. And just, Khayal became popular. And within a few months, we had like more than, 40, 50 WhatsApp groups managing more than 10,000 seniors. And it just became organic. Uh, you know, um,
So
and
one question, Himanshu, is there a revenue model here? Do they have to sign up? What is the
Absolutely, I'm
how?
coming to that.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
coming to that. So this is the original genesis of Khayal that I'm just talking about. But then after managing so many seniors, we felt that there is a need to centralize everything, and which is why we created an app. The reason we created an app is because the most easiest way is to make them use their own device. It's the most powerful device which they have. And every senior today has a smartphone, and every senior uses things like WhatsApp, they use YouTube, they use Facebook, and the fourth most popular app today in the country among seniors is Khayaal. So we work very closely with them, and on the app there are multiple things. There are multiple things around financial literacy. So we created the first fintech card for the elderly. So the Khayaal card helps remove the fear of doing online transactions for seniors. We introduced the senior friendly travel for seniors. Again, these are things that seniors told us that they wanted. And then,
Right.
eventually when we became a super app for seniors, we used to call it a super app, but then seniors told us, no, no, this is not a super app. This is a club. You guys have created an online club for seniors. And they started associating this with their happiness. So today, Khayaal is being called as the happiness club for seniors. And we give the power to the community to,
Right.
do things. So it's by seniors, for seniors, and we, help them to build this for themselves. Um, so yeah, I will not take a lot of time, but yeah, we do a lot of stuff with seniors. We also do a lot of work along with, brand partners. So the monetization model that we have is that there is a
Yeah.
Khayaal Club membership, which is priced at just 1,000 rupees per year, as cheap as your
Interesting.
Netflix subscription. And people buy, multiple things on our platform. They buy, they do e-commerce, and they also, travel along with us. So there are multiple angles of commercialization on the app.
That's really interesting and some good work you're doing with this key cohort, to provide them quality of life and with the safety built in. It's very some good work there. So
Thank
interesting.
you.
We will check out your platform and we'll see, what, and we'll read up more about the good work that you do. And now I will jump straight to Shruutika More. She heads our creative of IPSOS. She heads the creative excellent vertical, which does all the communication and ad testing for clients. So in fact, she's going to tell us about how it has the whole space has transcended over the years of how to involve the seniors and whether the silvers and whether is she happy with how it has shaped up, or does she have any recommendation for marketers? Over to you, Shruutika.
Yes, thanks, Madhurima, and everyone, all the speakers before. Thank you for the interesting insights. Talking about silvers, and again, like Prasun said, this is also a topic very close to my heart. But when I did a quick overview of the kind of ads that we've seen in Indian advertising landscape, what I do realize is there are still many ads that show older people fumbling with technology or needing like a help to function, pain related advertising. So when in reality, the boomers are actually running business, they are mentoring startups and learning new skills on YouTube and whatnot. So I think that broader perspective needs to happen, right? We are anyway experiencing trends on inclusion. So now it's time that we start looking at them and including them also in our narratives, in our advertising. Vivek spoke about Antara's senior living. Antara they have actually come up with interesting ads, and those were some of the good ads that I could find, which were specifically addressing these silver's needs. So their campaign is called "Fun is Ageless." I think that as a statement itself is powerful. They show seniors ziplining and painting, and in fact, one of the ads shows the father and his friends asking the son for permission to go to Goa trip. So I think those are the kind of that's innocent, that's authentic, that's innocent, and that's also empathetic to their own context, to where they are, the life stage that they are, right? And that's what Ipsos' creative excellence also believes, that when you look at a certain cohort with that understanding of empathy doesn't have to be emotional. It just means being true to the context. And when you do that, you understand what is it that you want to communicate to them and how you want to communicate to them. So, in short, basis the search that we've done in IPSOS Creative Excellence, what we know about advertising to silver consumers is that for them, authenticity matters more than the aspiration. We may want to show, bigger aspirations around great standard of livings and big homes. Great, but authenticity, because understand they've had a long life journey already. We need to respect that journey, their maturity. So overt marketing techniques are not going to work with them. Authenticity is something that is absolutely going to work with them. They are very clear about what kind of value benefits they expect from things. So communicating those value benefits upfront, that's something that works. That's what we know from our creative research. They look for, they crave for, from an emotional sense, they crave for relevance over recognition. So it's not just about having a having them at like a footnote or like a tick box that you've included an elderly person in the ad about family. No, it's about recognition. It's about being seen. So yeah, my big messages I'll quickly summarize include, but don't stereotype. Not all silvers are same. Professor Arun sir spoke about urban rural classifications that exist. So think about those urban, rural, retired, working. They are all there. So all narratives need to include a diversity. We must speak to their identity and not their age. We're not speaking to their age. They are not just older consumers, they are parents, they are creators, they are decision makers, they are cultural anchors of our society. We must remember that when we are speaking to them through advertising. And we must design with empathy, whether it's about designing visually or digitally. I mean, from font sizes, keeping things simple, not using marketing jargons. Those are some of the things that marketeers can remember when it comes to the creative treatment. And the story arc also needs to be simple, authentic, something that they can connect with. Lastly, marketing to silvers is not about making them feel young again. It's really about making them feel seen and truly seen. So yeah, those are my views.
Very, very interesting views from Shruutika about how marketers need to, factor in some of these key elements in their communication when they engage with this key cohort. And, how, and don't make them look younger. Just make them respect their age and
Absolutely.
let them experience life the way they want. Now, I think since we've heard so much about from our experts, I'll first jump to now Neetu, because she's done a lot of work in across categories in CPG, which is what is, I'm so sorry, this is consumer brands. So she's done a lot of consumer packaged goods sector. So she will now, tell you some of the key categories that can actually, address this key segment. So Neetu, over to you before I go to Ashita. I know Ashita is waiting. So
Thank
first,
you.
yeah.
Thank you, Madhurima. I think a lot's been spoken about silvers, and yes, there's a lot of value to be unlocked among seniors. We also need to grow the value, like Professor Arun said. Uh, the work that we've done among silvers, yes, there are a lot of categories where we can launch a lot of products. We can do something which is appropriate and meets the needs of silvers. But before that, let's just understand silvers and their mindsets, the context in which they've grown. I'll just spend a minute talking about these are people who've embraced change through their lives. They were born in an era where there was a lot of nationalism. They've seen the Coke walking out of India, then they've seen globalization. They've seen all kinds of stages in life. They've seen an era where there was no tech, black and white TV, to moving to color TV, to now moving to connected TV. They've lived and embraced change. At the same time, they've been born in households where there was frugality. There is a lot of attachment to value for money. Yes, they hold a lot of money. They've arrived in their lives. They have their decision making is independent. They can take their own decisions. They are sitting with lots of money where sometimes they don't know where to spend, because the majority of the decisions in their life, the big decisions like a house, many of them own a house, or have moved, they've got savings which they can utilize. So they're willing to spend. But how do we really, as marketeers, talk to these generations and make, we've really ignored this generation a lot. So I would like to spend a bit of time talking to marketers. Let's understand this generation. Often we see in research, we do a lot of researches. Most of our research, TG, the one that we research, ends at 45. Most of the time we're including the Gen Zs, the young adults, or a little bit older, but 45 and 50 is where we are capping researchers. We're not really understanding the needs of silvers and where they stand. So it's really important to understand this cohort, talk to them, understand their needs, their pain points, what are they looking for in life, and go ahead, keeping that in view. Now, we know that that's an untapped potential. India is going to grow into that, but there are countries like Italy, US, UK, Japan, where where there are a lot of silvers. So as IPSOS, we've conducted a study in these countries and did a bit of segmentation to arrive at the mindsets of these people. What we discovered was that it's not one paintbrush which pictures all these together. There were four cohorts which emerged in our study. And while I'll not get into the detail of each segment, what we did see was there was a cohort of simple contentment, people who were happy, they were aging gracefully, they were calm, they were content, they were financially secure, and what they're looking for is connections with their friends and families. They want to really make their old years safe, connected, age gracefully. There are lessons that marketeers can tap into among them. At the same time, there is the other side, which could be about strivers. These are people who are really ambitious. They have a lot of money. They really value, they want to look good, they want to spend on their health, they want to travel the world now that they're free from their duties of growing up their kids or making sure that their kids have succeeded in life. They really want to spend on themselves and they don't mind splurging. They want
Right.
to be healthy, be looking good. And there's a lot of categories which can tap into this, from travel to the whole fashion industry, to the personal care industry, FMCG world. If you may start making products which talk to this cohort, there's a lot of value to be discovered.
Right.
There's another cohort which I think Dr. Arun talked about. There could be strugglers in there who are coping with loneliness, who don't have the money, who are financially dependent on their kids, and that's a cohort which we need to support. Again, mental stability. As marketers, we don't need to ignore that cohort as well. So there are lessons there. We really
Right.
need to spend some time as marketers, as people in business, understanding this cohort and their needs, so that we can really tap into that. What we've learned through all the work that we've been doing among silvers is that we need to first understand this TG. For the category you're in, you really need to understand where they stand, what they need from the category, and how you can tap into them. So knowing them, understanding them, including them in in your target group is the first step to take that journey. The second step is, how do you talk to them? Striking a balance is important. While they may while they may have the money to splurge on premium products, value for money is important for them. So how do you justify the price that you will command from them? How do you ensure that you tap into the nostalgia that they love, but at the same time give them access and modern technology so that you make convenience an easy factor for them? How do you balance the modernity and the traditional aspects which they value? They might value the family values, the cultural values, but how do you make them embrace modernity and strike a balance between the two? These are a lot of things which we can think about. It's all about being inclusive. I think inclusive marketing is something that we really need to think about. Have we been inclusive with silvers in our research world, in our understanding of that cohort? Is the last thought that I'd like to end with.
Wonderful. Very, very good thoughts from Neetu. Yes, exactly. I've also done a lot of research while being with IPSOS, and, most of the clients put a cap and say just till 40 or 50 max. they don't go beyond that age group while covering the segments. And so I think they are ignoring a large part of the economy, or consumers who have pots of monies, who have the propensity to spend, but marketers are not engaging with them. So I think very, very good views from all the panelists. Now I'm going to jump straight to Dr. Ashita Aggarwal, and she's going to talk about some of her research that she's done, to understand the silvers. And so over to you, Ashita. Sorry, you have come in last, but we're going to give you enough time to say your piece.
Thank you so much, Madhurima. And I think so much has been said that I am not sure how much value can I add, because a lot of research is covered. But I completely agree with all my panelists out there that, for many, many years, we've been focusing on the demographic dividend of India. And we forgot that there's a silver dividend as well. Because as from baby boomers to Gen X, the societies increase, actually, there were people who were now looking to spend more on better quality products and were moving to better experiences. So Neetu had already given segments, which has very clearly emerged in a lot of my research work. But taking a broader view, in my work, I figured out there are three kind of people. I'm just grouping them into three homogeneous segments. And one group, as I would say, is the compensatory lot. Now, these are the people who basically had deferred their gratification all these years. It was always like, okay, someday we will also do this, because they were so caught up with their responsibilities and fulfilling obligations to kids and other elders in the family that they deferred. And today for them, after 50, 55, it is about how do I compensate for all the sacrifices I made or what I lost in my early years. There's a second group, which is a status quo. So they are very content. They lived a life which they wanted, with compromises or not with compromises. And they are typically not looking for something more. They're very content, and they are aging as they probably thought, it would be. And they continue with the same kind of patterns, as they had decided for themselves. The third lot is a forward-looking lot. Now, these are the people who said retirement is the start of a new life, right? For them, it's not end of life, but start of a new life, which is that this is my time. And, I'm going to look forward. I'm going to do things which I always wanted to do. It's not a compensatory behavior, but it is something which they now want to explore new. For their own selves and for enhancing their own personalities. So these are three broad groups, and I would say that whether we're talking about the urban, more financially independent silvers, or we're talking about rural who may not be so financially independent, we can find these three groups in both the cohorts. Of course, their behavior is different, and kind of services or products we can sell to them would also be different, but these three exist in both the rural and the urban world. Now, having said so, the second very important point, which in my conversations and deep interviews, I figured out is that at this stage, people feel that they are like something, or they would like to buy something. So for example, in one of our conversations, we figured out that people said, I am financially independent, definitely, and I want to live on my own, and I don't want responsibility of grandkids, kids coming in. Fine, good to meet them sometime, but I want to have my own independence, and I want to live on own and enjoy. However, we need to understand that what we know of them, right? So we may say, no, old people are very community driven. They are longing for relationships, and they want to, always be taken care of. They want somebody around them. My analysis has told me that there is an overlap between these two, what they think of themselves and what we know of them. And there is this overlap, which is what we across any industry has to tap on, right? So yes, they are looking for independence, yet they're also looking for belongingness. Now, how do we get them there? How do we make them feel that they're independent, yet they are connected when they want to be connected? So it's a very thin line out there, but there's an overlap because their idea of themselves may not be perfect. It's a more ideal self. And we are probably looking at with some stereotype and past knowledge which comes in, and that overlap becomes critical. And how do we assess that overlap? And that could be applicable to any industry, whether it's real estate. And, I mean, silver homes are a very beautiful concept for financial independent people, or healthcare, etc. I think there are four pillars we have to evaluate it on. One is economic. So what is their financial status like? How much of savings do they have, right? How much are they ready to spend now? Because, so basically now it's not like I have to spend for long term, right? So, but then how much can they spend? Do they have a retirement income? Is there still a current source of income, or are they only using out of their savings? So that's the first one, which is economic. The second one becomes social or structural. I'm kind of putting them together, which is what kind of a social ecosystem they have, who all are living at home. What is their structure like? Who are they? Who are the different family members they are tied with? Are they still involved in some kind of work, or are they completely at home? Are they indulging in their hobbies or not indulging in their hobbies? So that social structural lens has to be looked at. The third element I feel is physical. So health, physical mobility. How much can I do? Right? How much do my physical self allows me to do, and how comfortable I am with myself physically. And I would probably put it mentally as well. The mental health is very important, is the third part of it. And lastly is emotional. So factors like loneliness, and I mean, a lot of research says that empty nesters feel lonely, which is not wrong, but how they deal with this loneliness could be different, right? Positive loneliness versus negative loneliness, right? Whether it's being alone or whether it's being lonely, and we see a very nuanced approach to all these things today. I mean, many of them don't want to be dependent. They probably prefer to be frugal, but they don't want to be dependent on somebody. Others are have age thinking that we have done our bit and now it's time for our kids to do their bit, right? So they don't mind being dependent emotionally, or for money or even emotions. I'm not just saying dependence with respect to finances. It's also emotional dependence, which is very, very critical out there. So I think these four parameters of economic, structural, physical, and emotional are very critical when we are looking at this, what we know of them and what they think of them, to evaluate every possible opportunity. And the last point, because we've already spoken about all the products out there, I think digital is a very big thing coming in. And it is definitely a myth that they are not very open to adopting digital tech. They are. In fact, report says that 50% of people over 55 years are basically looking at digital adoption for convenience. And out of them, I mean, the frequency and the order size has increased by 52% in the last 3 years. I think that has also been the outcome of COVID. And when we talk about digital, I think the opportunity, whether it is about e-com, CODs, and I mean, ongoing or Q-commerce today becomes extremely important. Whether it is about assisted living, and I think Mr. Vivek Gupta was talking about the vernacular language, and talking about how do we create assisted digital platforms, and the voice assistants are heading that way. So I mean, my current research is in the area of agentic voice AI, and the one very big use case of an agentic voice AI is to help silvers, wherein you can talk. So there is loneliness. You have a companion, right, whom you can talk to, who can talk back to you, who understands you. You can ask them for help. They can, so you don't have to call, press any button, understand. You just tell them and they can connect you to a doctor online for help. They can connect you with a community helper if you need anything. If you're living in silver communities, you basically can approach anybody for any other kind of help as well. And vernacular voice assistants today will become an order of the day to manage your entire home and even the safety, right? Because they may not always be living in silver communities, and therein safety becomes a very important concern for people in this age group. And technology, therefore, has a huge, huge, huge potential to service this cohort or the group. They are open, they just need more simple technology. We feel that technology means always sophisticated and difficult to understand, but I think the tech marketeers tomorrow have to come up with technology which is simple and easy to understand, and that's where they will find more adoption. So
Very
this
interesting.
is, I think, among all the things which I had, I think this covers quite a bit of it. Silvers are people who are brand loyal. You invest in them, their lifetime value is going to be higher than your Gen Z who are variety seekers and switchers.
Absolutely. Yeah, they would, they're not that loyal. They will, if a new product comes their way, and, so
Yes.
they will. And in fact, if you look at all these e-commerce, these quick commerce, I think Generation X and Z, who are the highest consumers on, because they are the homemakers also, these Generation X. So they are not that brand loyal. If they see something new, they'll really
They will.
get it. And coming to and what you talked about, post retirement. Since I come from an army family, so all the army officers, when they retire, they don't say we are retiring. They say re-attiring. That is, we are going to look at another career after 50, because after 54, I think army officers retire. So this is what they call themselves, re-attiring. Okay, so very, very interesting views from all the experts. Now, I want to know, does anybody want to sum up, or someone wants to say? I think we'll go to Professor Arun Kumar, because he's the one who started this whole conversation. Sir, you've heard so many diverse views. Now, what do you have to say about, I know you're saying that's just 2% which has the, spending power. But what are your views? If you were to sum up this whole conversation, what are you deriving out of what everyone else has said?
Yeah, so Madhurima, I think one thing that has come out very clearly is that we need to age gracefully.
Yes.
We have to accept aging. What modern day life is doing is that it's making us not accept that we are aging, that we are slowing down, and that creates a lot of tension in life, especially for the elderly, because they're not able to accept that they have lost their capacities and so on. So if we enable aging with grace, and this is something I felt when I was doing my PhD in physics before I switched to economics in the US.
Okay.
In the US, aging gracefully is very difficult because everybody wants to be young. Even at the age of 60, they would say that we are young, So therefore, there's lack of acceptance. I think if we can promote acceptance, then things will be better. And I think Ashita has flagged it, others have flagged it, Ashita has also very correctly pointed out about the technology, rapid technical change. Compared to when I was young, the rate of change has increased enormously. And now you see, earlier physical labor was being displaced. Now mental labor is being displaced. So AI is going to actually create a huge, advantage, as Ashita said, but also disadvantage. And I'm reminded of Professor Arrow, who was the second Nobel Prize winner in economics. He said that technology creates a mist of the future. The future is not clear to us where we are headed. If you think back 20 years, we didn't know that there'd be e-commerce and e-banking, and e-commerce and e-banking has come. And now with agentic AI, the change is so rapid that, as Elon Musk has said in Saudi Arabia in December, he said within 1 year, everything that a human being could do, AI would be able to do. So the change is going to be so dramatic and so rapid. We need to prepare everybody, not just the silver, but also the young, to actually accept this dramatic change. Because not only physical labor is going to be displaced, but mental labor, like lawyers and doctors and so on, their work is also going to be displaced. I already have a friend who's created an app, and you just take a picture of your forehead and it'll tell you what is your BP, what's your sugar, etc. You don't need a doctor. I have a friend, a AIMS doctor. He's got an app which just looks at the skin picture and tells you what is your skin problem. So all these things are happening so dramatically and so rapidly. A, they'll be able to help, but also B, they're going to displace in terms of employment. So employment, unemployment could rise to 50, 60% among the young people. And therefore, when they age, they won't have many resources because of this. So in other words, we need to take into account technology. And that's why, in education, we've been saying we have to teach children how to learn, because you'll be changing your jobs all the time. So learning how to learn has become very important, and how the elderly will cope with all this rapid change. If it is a slow change, they can cope with it. But if it's rapid change, that becomes much more difficult, not only for the young, but also for the elderly. And therefore, in a sense, we need to concentrate on education very rapidly. Apart from the public finance points I made earlier about resources and spending on education, health, etc., I think, for the young, the education is very crucial, so that when they age, they'll have resources. So some of these things are very essential as far as I can make out from what everybody is saying.
Interesting. So some good sum up about how they need to, constantly upgrade their skills or reskill, so that they have, some source of income as they age, and they're not dependent on anybody, because being financially independent is the most important, aspect which seniors should strive for, even those who have still some years, left until they reach that age. I think very good views from everyone, and thank you, sir. And so anybody wants to say anything which we have not said, anybody who is, kind of eager to add something. So the floor is open to whoever wants to speak before we really call it, is rather finish it. So anybody who wants to say anything?
Yes, Madhurima, I would want to add a few bits here.
Okay, please go ahead.
See, during this entire discussion, we have discussed seniors as a separate cohort, having separate requirements, and therefore a separate set of solutions to be developed for them. I think it is also important to keep in mind that looking at seniors in alone, out of the context of everything else also would be a mistake. Okay. Seniors are also part of the overall social structure.
Right.
And being a great believer in market forces, I can tell you that as and when a market need arises for any consumer cohort, there are forces that rush to fulfill that need. Okay? It happened in West long ago, where the need for senior citizens and their loneliness and their other problems were to be taken care of, and multiple solutions emerged to take care of that in all possible domains. So will happen in India. We'll have different kind of developments that will happen, because we are a mid-low income society. So different solutions, more frugal solutions, cheaper solutions, different kind of solutions will come out. But I do think there are two levels at which the work should happen. As Professor Kumar was saying, one, I think there is a responsibility of the policymakers, the government, the society, is also to really look at the social aspect and the overall well-being of the senior cohort as such, from a policy point of view, and from providing them necessary support, infrastructure, and everything else that is required. There is a social aspect to this that should not be ignored. Then there is a specific aspect of senior citizens, which is to take care of their needs and requirements, where market forces will come in and fulfill that void and provide them solutions, and so on and so forth. I think both of these need to go together. It's like PSU versus private sector, and it's like something like both of them have to work together, or both the things have to happen together for a overall holistic solution. I don't think one solution will do with the problem or the opportunity. It will have to be a 360-degree holistic approach from everyone. There are initiatives that we have heard today that are happening. Many such initiatives are. And this is a big opportunity, both on the social as well as on the business side, and it will become bigger in days to come.
Yes, actually, if you see the opportunities, if the opportunities that exist or that can be created, if we have the right solutions to cater to their needs and aspirations, that can open a whole new vista of services and products for this, treat them as a part of the whole economy, and not as a separate to be, treat them. They want to be a part of the whole system, and not just be told that, hey, you are it's different from us or whatever. They want to be a part of this whole ecosystem that is. So I think very, very interesting views from anyone. Anyone else wants to add? Then I'll hand over to
Yeah,
Shrutika.
Madhurima, just from an
Yeah.
advertising lens, I just wanted to sum up. So we actually have to, the advertising community needs to now start including silvers, not just as a footnote in the family sort of scenarios. They need to build them as protagonists, and so that they can showcase their own journeys. And it's not just about the age, but the empathetic context role that they play in the society that needs to be addressed. I think those are some of the important ways to address silvers in the marketing communications.
Very nice. Yeah, agree. I 100% agree that, yeah, right now how they show silvers, as the whole one big joint family, and they are just blessing everyone. Excuse me, they are stylish people. They have their own aspirations, and they're not
There
sitting
are
there as whatever.
there are silver influencers also rising.
Yeah,
So
actually, and who are cooking and have their own interesting handles on Insta, etc. So yeah, so very interesting, conversation or discussion with everybody. So I'll hand over to Shrunkla now. Shrunkla, over to you.
When Madhurima mentioned retiring and not retiring, something really interesting came to my mind. So I wanted to ask if the gig economy can be redesigned to offer, purposeful jobs to seniors who don't want to work full time and don't want to grind either.
Oh, well, something interesting comes to my mind because you said this, Shankla. Yes, of course. We spoke about how nuclear families are emerging, and I can see around myself young parents struggling to take care of their young ones because both, probably partners are working, and for them, there's a huge amount of dependency to take care of kids. Now, imagine a structure where, a senior citizen in a particular locality offers that kind of a service, either through a daycare service or like that, right, where young children can be taken care of by, because this is just an offshoot of what seniors have been doing all along. In a traditional family structures, seniors had been taking care of youngsters in the family and imparting values in them, telling them about history, family, and everything else, right? Now there is a massive opportunity there that can be unlocked through gig economy or otherwise. There's a lot of things that seniors can do, and have been doing. It's just a question of putting it together in a structured manner, maybe from a business point of view. But it's a very interesting thought, Shankar, actually.
This reminds me of the movie Intern, right? Which is actually based on this entire thing, and such a beautiful concept that, we undermine the kind of experience which silvers can bring into organization and benefit it from them.
Yeah, a perspective from a fresh mind, from a fresher, and a perspective of someone who's very experienced is really good. So with that, thank you all for joining us today and for being part of such a rich, inspiring conversation from real estate to wellness, fintech. Today's dialogue made one thing very clear, that silver economy is about opportunity. A special thanks to our incredible panelists for sharing their expertise. Until next time, stay curious, stay future focused, and remember, silver is the new gold.
Thanks for organizing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.